wanted to go back real quick to you mentioned that the Spurs, in your opinion, should not go out there and try to trade for a star to accelerate the rebuild. One player that's been kind of rumored or just speculated as to like, hey, maybe they should go out and get this player is Trae Young. He's been rumored here and there to the Spurs. And that kind of reminds me of the Atlanta situation because now all of a sudden they have a top pick as to where going in, like they were, like I said, back half of the lottery up there at like number 10. So now they're in a situation to where, hey, they can go out there and they can pick anybody from this class. And there are some pretty good guys in that top 5, maybe not necessarily players you think are going to evolve into, top 10 players in the league, but certainly players that can help Atlanta get to a better place, seeing as though the past few years have been disappointing. So, question I wanted to pose to you, Oliver, is specifically about the Hawks situation and how they should approach selecting the number 1 pick here. They do have Jalen Johnson, and he really broke out this year in a big way for them. Had some great minutes, and they can go 2 different directions. They can go guard. Maybe they can ship Trae Young off and just keep DeJounte and maybe go with the guard in that spot. Or they can really just look for another front court partner, maybe look for an Alex Sarr to kind of put in that front court. He's been mocked at number 1 for multiple people here in the space. So that's just an interesting question I've been thinking about, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that. If you were in their position, would you go for a guard at that spot of number 1, or would you lean more towards taking somebody in that front court for the number 1 pick?
Sure. So I guess to make it clear, like I have Alex Sarr as my like 1A in this class right now, relatively in line with consensus. But that being said, I think he is like in my opinion, he is the clear 1A. And so I would take him. And if I feel like taking anyone else in this position, it feels like you're leaving value on the table with the number 1 pick. I mean, what is it? This is like the first number 1 pick Atlanta's ever had, right? In history.
I want to say like maybe in like almost 50 years. I know they weren't the Atlanta Hawks. So, I mean, for the Atlanta Hawks, it's
point being, this opportunity does not come around often. And when you have this opportunity, you want to maximize the value and be thinking like, not be thinking so short term. However, if you really feel like this team needs like another guard on the roster, if they need someone that has the skills that Alex Sarr does not have, then I would rather trade down and field those calls than take someone at the number 1 pick who I don't feel is worthy of that number 1 pick, who doesn't align closely with that value. And it's all relative, right? Like, I don't think there's, despite me saying that Sarr is 1A in this class does not equal 1A in last year's class or like prior classes. Like, I don't see any of these guys really being like a cornerstone that you build a franchise around, like a Zion Williamson, Cade Cunningham, Victor Wembanyama, Kyrie Irving, take your pick. It makes it difficult to, match up that value, as I was saying. If you truly want to guard, you got to move down to the level at which you think the guard that you're targeting closely aligns with that value. Mm-hmm. So all that being said, like everything should be on the table for Atlanta. You have the best pick available in Alex Sarr, in my opinion. You could trade down with the teams who do have lottery fodder. We just talked about San Antonio. Portland has multiple picks in the first round. Atlanta also has a Clint Capella expiring contract. That I'm sure they would love to get off their books, and a team with salary cap who maybe doesn't have like championship aspirations or something, they could take that contract on. Or you could package the Capella deal. You could get in the number 1 pick, and you could just completely reset, and you could trade Trae Young, trade DeJounte Murray in a separate deal, and you could just get like an absolute treasure chest of assets to then, completely build around like a Jalen Johnson. And maybe an Onyeka Okongwu sticks around. It's not super clear what their organization thinks of him yet, as whether he's a starter or not, despite that extension coming through.
Yep.
Personally, I would, if I were in the Atlanta front office doing my thing, I would draft Alex Sarr. I would move Clint Capella, and then I would feel pretty comfortable being able to pair Alex and Onyeka, having them share minutes on the floor, but also staggering them a little bit. I think there would definitely be growing pains at first, but they kind of can alternate between one being a spacer, one being a rim runner. Defensively, one can work as an anchor, one/rim protector. The other can be, a free safety roamer, off-ball mover. So long story short, those are my thoughts on Atlanta's number one pick, the routes that they have in front of them, and ultimately the choice I would go with.
That's a very sound strategy. I think that going in that direction, restarting, I think is a very real possibility when you have a team that's kind of stuck in the middle, the way they've been the past 3 seasons. It would make a lot of sense for them to just say, hey, we're just going to start over. Trae Young has had a great time with us, but we want to go to a different direction, sell him off, like you said, get those assets, and then bring in Alex. It's something that I think they shouldn't overthink. Alex, by many accounts, most accounts, is that number one guy. Go with him. Get the most talented guy you can. And, he's going to fortify your front court, as far as just automatically being a defensive stud. And then there's that upside offensively that can pair really well with various players they have on the roster, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka. So definitely with you there. I like that strategy for them. I think it can really work out in the long run, sacrificing a little bit in the short term, but definitely going to help them get over that hump and get back to where they want to be